Gerrit is what my generation would call a hustler. When you just started and explaining how you got into this, I did not think that would be your story. And you've got a lot of guts. When you're speaking about the story about let's judge success when you were the most successful one. I mean, that takes a lot of guts and a lot of courage, and it takes you having the right mindset as well. And so I also want to open up the floor for any questions that you may have. Please type it in the chat. We'd prefer it if you do it that way. Just type your questions in the chat. I just want to touch on a point that you mentioned there, Gerrit, about knowing your strengths and using them to your advantage. When you're speaking about the draping, I was quite amazed that when you went to go look at when you Googled that person, you weren't intimidated when you saw what they did. You actually looked for what you did better than them. And
Yes.
oftentimes when we go and look at other people, what they're doing, it's in a negative light to ourselves. We look at other people and we start to feel less of ourselves because we think that they're better than us. And it's true, they could be better in a specific area, but if you start to change the lens in which you look through, you could start to see that you actually have strengths and you actually have things that are better than them. And so you need to use your strengths to your advantage. And I like what you said about talking yourself into doing things. When you had that doubt, you asked yourself why. You confronted yourself. It's important to confront ourselves and to maintain that positive mindset. So yeah, is there anybody with any questions? You can type it in the chat, or if you prefer, you can just unmute your mic and ask the questions. I'll leave a couple of seconds for that.
I believe the evening just before the lady speaks, before Lucretia speaks, the question says, so in other words, you'd prefer if one would fake it till they make it in order to convince it.
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
So the question says, in other words, you'd prefer if one would fake it till they make it in order to convince themselves.
The thing is, if you live in self-doubt the whole time, you won't get anywhere. You know what I'm saying? So you have to. Obviously, we are all doubting ourselves on certain levels, certain times, but if you can teach yourself to overcome that self-doubt and figure out why are you doubting yourself, and can you do something about it instead of giving up, instead of accepting, oh, I'm not good enough. You have to try. You have to try to better yourself, and that's my whole motto is learn from others and learn from yourself and listen to yourself and say, yes, I can. I mean, it sounds very Trumpy, like, but really and truly, I mean, if you're not positive, you'll always doubt yourself. I hope that answers your question.
Perfect. Thank you for that. And I think we had another question from someone else who tried to speak. You can go for it now.
Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Lucretia Mayekiso, and I am from Kimberley. I have a company that is Lunama Trading. At Lunama Trading, we do a diverse. We are a diverse company. We do a lot of services and products. We do clothing design, custom clothing design, and sewing. We do event decorations, baking, and confectionaries. And I can relate to Gerrit's story because I never sit still. when during the COVID, when there was nothing to do and there was no parties, there was no events, there was no matric dances, I actually took the opportunity and I made masks just before the material masks were introduced. Then I made it, and that's why I say I can relate to Gerrit's story, because I was also a young girl when my mother used to give me a needle and say, when you've got holes in your socks, then you work it yourself and you sew it yourself and to fix it. So and then I am that confident that I can make a wedding dress in less than a day. That is how confident I am. And sometimes, I do panic. I do stress sometimes, but that is how I get productive the most. And the thing that I'm just worried about is sometimes I do wait for the last minute to do things. And even if I know that I can make this dress, I can make your matric dance dress for you right now, and then you can wear it even hours before the matric dance. That is how confident I am in my product. It's just that sometimes I am worried that I wait till the last minute and I work
Okay.
very well under pressure. So
Yeah, but you procrastinate. Yeah.
yes. And I really do need help with that. I don't know how I am going to do that, because I can actually, if I do not procrastinate, then I can get a lot of products done in a short space of time. But because of procrastination, I always get that I do things at the last minute and work under pressure, a lot of pressure.
You
So
have
Yes.
to.
I would
Sorry. Yeah.
really, sorry, I
Sorry
would
to cut you
really
there,
like
Lucretia.
to be,
Just a reminder that we are very tight on time.
okay,
That's a very
sorry,
good question. I'm going to allow Mr. Gerrit to proceed to answer that
answer.
question, and then
Okay,
unfortunately, you're going to have to move on after that.
all right.
Thank you, Gerrit.
Okay. We all do that. We all procrastinate. You know what I do? I tell the customer, lie to me, lie about the date. Okay. And say they want it for the 30th of November, I would say that I will write on the sketch or the order to the 12th of November. So that's my way of dealing with it. Okay. I lie to myself and then I execute it earlier. What you must be very careful of, and that's we are known for it, is you get a bad name for number 99. You're going to lose business at the end of the day because people will say, oh no, and you don't allow yourself enough time to correct those funny, finicky things that the customers want at number 99. So lie to yourself about the date, and it really works well. Okay, I hope that helps you.
Thank you very much, Gerrit. I think Musa Mufamedi has a question. If I'm not mistaken, I see your hand is raised. If you have a question, you can proceed to ask.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for having me and for this opportunity. Over the time and through this journey, I have gotten to realize that if I introduce a product or a service to the community, then I'm introducing some other. So
Sorry, Musa, we're struggling to hear you there. Can you just repeat that?
I had gotten to realize that through my journey, I have a tendency of perhaps, let's say, if I have a service, and yes, I run that service or I serve my clients with that or give my clients that product. So after having that, I would then want to introduce a new product or another product on top of the other one. So it then raises confusions, strains, and so forth. Not that I'm worried about it, since I'm a holding company and I'm willing to introduce, for instance, I'm manufacturing detergents and I'm even willing to go into paint manufacturing, tissue paper manufacturing, cement manufacturing, and I'm also currently in technology, which is still in the hygiene sector. So what I would want to ask Mr. Gerrit is that what does he think about being diverse when you are in business? Or is it advisable, like I have always had, to focus on one thing at the time? Or what is his take on this matter?
Can I answer that? Is my time? Sorry. Find your niche. Rather focus on one thing and do it well than having a lot of smaller things. I also tend to do that. You basically, at the end of the day, the thing that gives you the most money or makes you the most money, that it must be your focus. If you want to diversify, see if it makes money, if it's successful. If it's not successful, leave it, scratch it out. Scratch it out. But your main focus must be on your main product. Rather better that than trying all these little small things. That's basically taking chances, and maybe it can work, maybe not. Yeah, well, that's my advice about that.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much, Gerrit. Just lastly, the final question there. I see in the chat, Lindy says that, thank you for an inspiring story. Do you offer training on sewing or designing?
I do. I do internships, but it also depends on the time of year and how busy I am, etc., etc. But we don't. Yeah, I really don't have time for classes, etc. I love that I must say. I love people to come in to me and show me their designs, and I will tell them this is good, this is bad, do that, do this. But classes, no.
Perfect. All right. Listen, I said this before, I'm going to say it again. In the space that we're in, it's all about networking. So I want to encourage you once again just to engage in that chat. I see that there's some people who are exchanging contact details, which is great. Another option that you have, if you've already introduced yourself, maybe reply to that first message that you sent with your contact details. If you're not comfortable putting your phone number, you can put your email address or your business email. And I think that it is important that we get connected. It's important that you network, and let's continue to do that. Now, without any further waste of time, I want to introduce to you the next speaker, and it is Mokete Moetela. And she is a change and a project management specialist at Trekker Connect. And from my experience, I studied project management. I can tell you, it is not easy at all. And she's the president of the Toastmasters Club. She heads the policy research and advocacy portfolio, as well as communications divisions at BMF Tshwane region. She won the Standard Bank Ideal Authentic Leader Award in 2023. And her motto is, there is more beyond the horizon. So thank you, Mrs. Mokete. You can go ahead.
Thank you so much, TK, and good evening to everyone. But I have a question for you. Do you ever feel like I should be far in life, but why am I still stuck here? Or you're wondering, why did they choose me? I don't think I belong here. Those are some of the questions that I used to ask myself a few years ago. And I will get messages that you're not good enough, you're just a rural girl, you're not even technical enough, you're not even strong enough for this. Why do you think you can make it? Nobody has done it in your family. And that made me self-sabotage a lot. I will not show up for meetings sometimes. Most of the time I'll be late for things. I will make late submissions, or even just submit on the dot of the deadline. That is signs of self-sabotage. I would change projects. I will sell things. Like I'm a professional, but I would also just have this small hustling project where I'll be selling this. After 6 months, I'll be selling something else. After a year, I'll be selling something else. And people tell me, oh, this is nice. You must continue. This can grow. Actually, you must approach this supermarket. After a few months, I'm selling something different. I'm no longer on that one. Self-sabotaging my very own success. Little did I know that actually I'm just suffering from imposter syndrome. And maybe some might say it's not to suffer, you're just experiencing it, but I just did not know what it is and how to handle it. What I learned in life is that, and this is what I want you to take away from me. What I learned is that life is lived forward, but is understood backward. And I'll tell you why I'm saying this. The other thing that I learned was that in order to understand the future, I need to make sense of the past. And then I needed to develop a net for daring attitude. But how did I get here? As I was doing all these things, sabotaging myself, learning what is imposter syndrome, and the first time I heard about it was on a TED talk on YouTube. Then I went to research, and then I started to self-reflect to say, what they are talking about, I need to check, do I have this, and make a checklist and tick box to say, am I suffering from this? What is this? Why am I feeling like this? And then when people share their stories, I could relate. What I did after was to say, then what do I do? I started to check, how do I fight this? I thought it's something that I should be fighting. It's a monster that I should get rid of and kill. What I was doing in that process was to say, as much as I'm living life forward, I needed to sit down and try to understand backward and go back and reflect to say, why am I behaving like this? Why am I doing last minute things? Why am I always late? Why do I do that? Why do I move from this to another project? At work, if they recognize me in the boardroom or in a meeting where people are, a few weeks down the line, I'm no longer performing as best as I used to. I will be like shy and playing it down, and sometimes these behaviors, if you don't reflect sometimes and sit down to say, why am I behaving like this? It can go on and on and on. And after a few years, you are stuck in a company, you are not being promoted, and say, I should be far in life. So what helped me was that I needed to understand that as much as I live life going forward, I need to sometimes sit back and try to understand backward to say, what is happening with me? Why am I behaving like this? And where is this imposter syndrome coming into my life? Took me very long to understand. Those voices that says, calm down, you're doing too much. They're going to recognize you. And then what's going to happen? People will realize that you are a scam. These people are well learned. In this boardroom, these people, they went to better school than the one you went to. They are more qualified. And I'll be obsessed with studying. I always want to improve myself and study more and more so that at least I can be better and better, but it never gets enough. Then you become this perfectionist, of which most of the time we think it's a strength, but maybe not 100, but most of the time it works against us without us realizing that. Okay, so now as I was sitting down and trying to understand, making sense of the past, then I realized that I need to go through a self-mastery process to understand who am I, what I stand for, why am I here? And as I do that, I had to learn to befriend the little voice that always tells me that I'm not good enough. Why do I think I can do this? Give an example. I win this award from Standard Bank. It's CEOs of companies coming over to hand over this award. But deep down, I'm looking down on myself. I'm like, I know I worked hard enough to get it. But when it comes, I can't just relate. I know, but I'm a little bit shy about it. Even when I introduce myself, instead of mentioning it, I will mention other things and say, I'm just Mokete Moetela, and that's all. Because deep inside, there's always that voice that would say, did you really deserve this? I mean, there are kids from St. Mary's. I mean, there are girls from St. Mary's that could have gotten this award. They speak better English. They went to Harvard. We're competing with people who went to Harvard. You didn't go to Harvard. Why do you think you deserve this? And there'll be that voice that says, maybe they're right. You're just a real girl from Limpopo. What do you know? I'll be in a room with ministers and presidents of countries, and I would still struggle to just confidently show up. I'll play down myself, and people are expecting a lot from me because they know I work and I deliver, and they know I'm good at what I do. But internally, I've got these voices that tell me that, are you sure? Are you sure? You know, maybe it's not you. Maybe it's a mistake, right? So now, when I realize that this never ends. The imposter syndrome never ends, unfortunately. What you are going through now, you can find a way to deal with it. But as you progress in life, it's just there. It will come. And with a different feel and a different look, you need to recognize it. Okay. So now I needed to develop a new attitude towards life to say, I cannot live my life like this. Some people call me experts. They hired me and say, we are going to call you a change and project management specialist. I walk in there confident that I know what I'm doing. But when I get there, I'm with technical people, other specialists, and I'm beginning to think, do I really belong here? Then I stay a little bit, I'm pushing. I then get recognized to say, we never had a specialist like you. 3 weeks down the line, I'm like, maybe I need to tone it down a bit. Maybe I'm doing it too much. It's another self-sabotage. Now, when I sat down, I first had to understand myself. Self-mastery is very important because it helps you recognize the good voices and the bad voices. You know yourself. You know when your body or your gut tells you that this is right, this is wrong. Then you try to understand that when I live life forward, I need to sometimes sit and understand it backward. Reflect, why am I behaving like this and what can I do? What does this mean? And then I had to develop the net for guiding attitude. When I was doing self-mastery, now I know the voices. I know how it sounds like. I know the one that says, Mokete, it's time to stop, meaning that it's a genuine. There's a genuine one that says, stop trying, it's enough. You are not giving up, it's just that it's enough. And there's one that is imposter syndrome that's just sabotaging me. Now, when I develop the net for guiding attitude, when I get that voice that says, are you sure you belong here? I fix myself and say, net for guiding, I belong here. Net for saying that voice, now I know I belong here. Now, what this means is that it involves a lot of self-talk. Okay, people will motivate you. Sometimes motivation wears down after 3 days. Check yourself after 3 days or 3 weeks after this meeting. The motivation might still be there or might be gone. That's when you need to self-talk. And when you self-talk, you can control that. So when I get that negative voice that say, you don't belong there, those people don't even like you, are you sure? You didn't go to Harvard, you didn't go to this. And it's because I hang around with high-profile people. Half of the time I would believe I'm not high-profile, but I just find myself there. And I will say, net for guiding, I'm going there. Net for guiding, I'm going to show up. It's an attitude that you have to define it yourself and then own it and let it be you, that I'm not going to be defeated by life. As we are in this conversation, talk about finishing strong. You're probably feeling tired, end of the year fatigue. With myself, there's no such. If I'm tired for today, I'm tired for today. But not for dying, I'm going to finish strong and fight for myself and make sure that I'm successful. Then right time to prepare for next year. It's now in October to prepare for 2025. If you believe in resolutions, this is the time to make it. But life or the culture or the system made us believe that around October, November, we are tired, we can't think, we can't do anything. Okay, but actually this is the time. So now when you go through this process and you check yourself, you plan, self-mastery. This is the time to plan for next year. November, we are finalizing our plans. We are saying, okay, which resolution worked, which plan didn't work. We are carrying those resolutions from 3 years back, 4 years back, last year. We are taking this works, this is not working. January, we are just starting so that we can finish stronger, right? So the attitude towards life, it's very, very important that when the imposter syndrome comes in, you say net for dieting, and you can take this from me. Understand the future. In order to understand your future, go back and make sense of what happened. Always reflect to say, as a business person, as a corporate girlie, why am I still here? Am I happy when I'm here? What is happening? They don't like me. I'm not good enough. I don't belong here. Why? One other great example of us suffering from imposter syndrome is when you find that you get into a boardroom at work, the table is empty, or maybe there's still space on the table, and you just choose to sit at the back or against the wall. You take the chair that side, that chair that you like to take. You don't sit on the table. Why? Because no, it's management, or my boss is sitting there, or there's a CEO on the table. Some of us, we sit at the back. Listen, if the chair is not reserved for that person, you belong on that table. You are self-sabotaging yourself, how you are showing up. If you always yourself choose to be at the back, then how do we choose you, take you serious and put you to the front? You have to be intentional about it. So remember, don't be scared to fail. Net for dieting, you're going to do it. And if you fail, you're going to reflect, tick it off. Next time we don't do it this way, we move to the next one. Net for dieting, we are doing this and we are finishing strong. Over to you, TK, so that we can take questions.
Amazing. Thank you very much. Wow, I think for me it shows what you just said now. It shows that this imposter syndrome does not discriminate. Because I mean, you were good at what you were doing. You were in a room with important people, ministers. You'd won awards, and I mean, this syndrome was still, taunting you and tormenting you. And so it's better to deal with it as early as possible, because you don't want to deal with it when you're at the top, and it may be even more difficult to deal with it at the top. And I love what you said about life is meant to be lived forward and understood backwards. That is so profound, because so oftentimes we live with the past and we try to figure out the future. We try to figure out the future but live in the past, and it's actually the other way around. And so I want to open up the floor to any questions. If you've got any questions, yes, Paul, you can ask your question.